Joining us now on set, Lisa Booth, Republican strategist, Fox News political analyst, Tomi Lahren, host of Outkick's Tomi Lahren is Fearless, and Caroline Downey, staff writer at the National Review. Ladies, you honor me. Thank you very much. Ladies' Night Out.
Yes.
And in honor of
Friday
that,
night, Valentine's Day.
I want to show you. I want to show you my Valentine's gift to you. Let's run this baby up. Now, here it comes. Roses are red. Violets are blue. Come here illegally and we'll deport you. And this was put out on X by the White House today. So it's official.
I mean, if that's not a love poem, what is?
The best I can do. You know what I mean? Without crossing any lines, the best I can do.
Romantic poem, yeah.
That's it, Tomi?
But what a message does this send, though? I mean, really, I know it's funny. We laugh at it. It's a little Valentine, right? But the most that Borders Czar Kamala Harris said is, don't come. I'm going to address the root causes. I'm going to go to Guatemala for 5 minutes and address the root causes. Nothing changed. Donald Trump is saying, not only am I going to deport you, but I'm going to put out a funny Valentine to the world, letting the world know I love you, but don't come here illegally because Tom Homan is going to deport you. So save your money. Don't pay the criminal organizations, stay in your home country, do it the right way. I think that is, to your point, Lisa, a love letter to the world. Don't waste your money on smugglers. Come here the right way.
It's the right love letter, though. No, it's just like I believe there's good and bad weaponization. Well, and right now there's good weaponization helping Eric Adams, who's whatever he may believe in, I have no idea. I mean, I know the guy a little bit. But the fact is, he's playing ball with the new authorities, the new sheriffs, I call them, Pam Bondi, Tom Homan, etc. He's playing ball with them to rid New York of illegals and their crime. And I got to give him credit for that.
Well, and we've already seen the impact of the Trump administration already. I mean, gotaways are down 93%, which is a beautiful thing, but it's also depressing because we saw what the Biden administration allowed, what they encouraged, criminals crossing over the borders. And I believe in a small federal government, one of the primary roles is defense, keeping its citizens safe. And instead, they ceded our borders in our country to terrorists, to rapists, to criminals, allowing them to come in the United States. And for what reason? Yvette Clarke, Democrat congresswoman, gave it away when she said she needed more migrants for redistricting purposes. So the Biden administration intentionally put our lives at risk, which, mind you, that's what these sanctuary cities are still doing, for political purposes, for power. And this Trump administration instead is saying my primary objective is America first and protecting my citizens.
And Caroline, why shouldn't the president and his attorney general help out a local mayor who is trying to do the Lord's work and the president's policy? I mean, the case against Eric Adams was always so flimsy. I mean, basically, he took a couple plane tickets, okay? Fine. He got the Turkish embassy repaired more quickly. Fine. Who cares? Of all the things going on in this city and of all the crime and murders going on in this city, they're worried about that? Asking some building inspectors to get moving faster? Really?
Yeah, I mean, he's guilty of a few airline upgrades. And to your point, Larry, Tom Homan did suggest that this was a quid pro quo,
right,
sort of a backdoor deal, but it's the good kind, because rather than wielding reckless lawfare against the government, against Trump, I should say, and using, the weapons of power to attack the president, or when he wasn't even in office, this is honoring the will of the people to actually enforce border security and to prevent, criminals like that who killed Laken Riley from being sheltered in New York City's hotels on taxpayer dime and then being transported across this country. This is all very popular. And so as far as I'm concerned, if they're in, a room and they're making a deal like that,
it's a good deal.
It's a good deal.
Good deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's a good deal. He may be corrupt, but he's our corrupt guy. Whatever. I don't care as long as it helps out. All right, I'm going to move on.
Keeping us safe.
I'm going to move on. The Democrats' crisis of stupidity. It's not a constitutional crisis. It's a stupidity crisis, okay? Now, first up, let's run a quick montage of famous Democrats and their stupidity. Here it comes.
By definition, are we in a constitutional crisis?
Dangerously close to a constitutional crisis.
Constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis.
It's a constitutional crisis.
A constitutional crisis.
Terrific. Now, I want to show you the stupidity part comes in with a brief poll, Fox News poll. We're going to show you independents and Republicans versus Democrats, particularly the Chuck Schumer thing. Can we run that? Can we run that video?
I'm going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. 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 We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest. Thank you, everybody.
Too much of Chuck Schumer in one show, or one segment for me. It was way too hard. Tomi Lahren, I'm going to go to you because those lines on the downslope, listening to Senator Schumer, were independent lines and Republican lines, and it just shows you how it's cratering, which is why I say there's not a constitutional crisis, there's a political stupidity crisis by the Democratic Party.
If they want to continue, though, far be it for us to interrupt their insanity. Listen, we've got midterms coming up in a couple of years. If this is what they want to do, let them do it, right? I don't know who they think they're serving, though, when he says we will win. Against what? You're going to win more contracts and more frivolous spending and more bloat and more waste and more fraud. That's what you're winning for who? The Democrat Party has an issue with two specific groups of people. Hardworking Americans, which I would assume are most of us, and young men, right? You're not winning over hardworking Americans or young men with Chuck Schumer holding up Coronas and guacamole, or leading a chant that nobody else wanted to follow, or singing and acting crazy, or having a trans sanctuary city in Worcester, Massachusetts. None of that is translating to the groups that they need to win back. They're simply talking to each other, and if they want to do it, let them sit in that very odd echo chamber all day long and let us just laugh.
All right, let's get one more. We've got Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, on this whole issue of judges and unconstitutional and other blather. Here's Ms. Leavitt.
The real constitutional crisis is taking place within our judicial branch, where district court judges in liberal districts across the country are abusing their power to unilaterally block President Trump's basic executive authority.
Okay, so let's carve this up a little bit. Caroline Downey, I'm going to start with you on this. There's no constitutional issue here. The issue, it seems to me, is that there's a budget spending crisis, there's a deficit crisis, there's a debt crisis, there's an inflation crisis, there's a middle class and lower income working people's crisis. That's the crises, and Democrats refuse to address them. That's the way I read this. There's nothing to do with the Constitution. Democrats are standing for whom? For the unelected bureaucracy.
Absolutely. The parasite class, as Elon Musk has said on X. And Larry, I find it ironic that Democrats are pearl clutching about the constitutional crisis, saying, oh, Trump's going to defy the courts. Well, wait a minute. Isn't this the same party that demonized the Supreme Court as illegitimate for the past 4 years? Now suddenly you want to keep the courts sacred? I find that ridiculous. And it is true that Trump cannot dissolve these agencies without congressional approval. We all know that to be true. You know, the impoundment power, that's a real thing that you can't necessarily violate. But it is absolutely the prerogative of the president to cancel ideological spending on reckless ends, such as USIDs, frivolous spending and scandals, and FEMA, as I said, funding an illegal alien shelter that ended up harboring criminals. And he can redirect that funding to patriotic ends. He absolutely can do that. And so right now, we have a pause on a lot of these agencies. I don't expect them to be eliminated altogether without Congress.
One can only hope.
One can only hope. But, we can actually get more bang for our buck as taxpayers.
Lisa Booth, this is not a legal question. This is a political question. And guess who's on the wrong side again? Now, Tommy's right. If they want to be stupid, let's let them be stupid. But it is important. It is important to understand. Right? No. But it is important to understand the issue. It has nothing to do with the Constitution.
But you know what? It does have something to do. I'll add one of the crises, a list to that. It's a corruption crisis.
Got it.
And that is what the Democrats are truly afraid of, because what we're going to find out through all this transparency in the next 4 years is we're going to uncover the depths of the corruption of our government. And you have people, when Elon Musk says, we need to figure out how these government employees are getting so rich and making so money. You've got people like Elizabeth Warren making $174,000, yet she's a multimillionaire. You have someone like Maxine Waters, who during a House Financial Committee hearing the other day was saying, well, we don't know what they're going to find out about us, who's also, by the way, been listed as one of the most corrupt members of Congress multiple times. Or you have someone like Nancy Pelosi, who you know, Larry. She somehow
I
always
actually do know.
Well, no, but I didn't mean she
no.
somehow always manages to outperform the rest of the stock market and other hedge funds.
You're a brilliant investor.
You know, how do you think
She's a brilliant.
she does that, Larry?
You know, whenever I went into her office, as she was shaking us down for budget spending deals, she was poring over S&P tables and analyst profit forecasts. No, I'm just kidding. I'm playing along with you because none of that nonsense ever happened. But I think it is an important point. I want to move on to another issue, but it is an important point. This is about politics. It has nothing to do with the law or the Constitution or anything like that. And you're right, Tommy. If they want to be stupid, we'll let them be stupid. It will go on for quite some time. Okay. Can we, Tomi Lahren, can we get rid of the education department? That's the mandate. Linda McMahon had her first testimony today on her confirmation hearing. Can we get rid of it?
Can we get rid of it? I'm not sure. That's a logistical question. However, exposing it and saying this department is supposed to exist to improve education. Well, why are we doing so poorly in education? If the agency is not adding to that goal, then maybe we need to reimagine it. You know the way the left wanted to reimagine policing? Maybe we need to reimagine the education department. Let's use their words against them. They want to cover up for failure. They want to cover up for those that are making money while failing. And Elon Musk and DOGE, he's the richest man in the world. He's not going to stand for that. And he's doing it on behalf of the American people. What a philanthropist.
You know, that reminds me, right. He was, a lot of people were calling him corrupt. Yeah, like he was going to gain from this position he has. When you're worth $400 billion, how much more can you get? I mean, what do you think he's shaking? We're shaking him down. He's not shaking us down. Yeah, he's got money. The U.S. budget is bankrupt.
But you know this game that they play, they accuse us of doing the things that they're doing. So when they label Elon Musk as corrupt or, you know, that's what they're doing. They're corrupt. That's their fear. That's what they're worried about being exposed in all this. But I will say the beauty of what the Trump administration is doing, particularly with DOGE, there are no sacred cows. And the only way you can actually cut government, reform spending is by having no sacred cows, because far too often they're like, oh, we need to cut spending, but we need to save this program, but this, but that. And then at the end of the day, you cut nothing. You don't eliminate anything. So I think the beauty of what they're doing and why they'll be successful, no sacred cows, everything's on the table.
You know, on that point, just to follow up, because it's an important point, the buts. I know. And the buts come from Republicans as well as Democrats when it's just about spending. It's Elon Musk gives this cut spending, downsize government, deregulate government. He's the jet fuel behind this. I mean, even with all of his commanding presence and guile, I don't think President Trump could or would go this far were it not for Elon. I think that's a terribly important point. I call it the jet fuel. And we watched it in the Oval Office meeting the other day, yesterday, the day before, where President Trump let him talk for quite a while, which, I mean, I've been in those positions, which is quite an honor. And again, it just occurred. I mean, he's the jet fuel. Caroline, you had some. I was going to say you don't like jet fuel.
Well, I was going to say Trump's popularity is rising by the day, and Elon Musk is taking the arrows of criticism. So it's really this perfect arrangement where Elon Musk, everything he just shrinks it off. All right, whatever, I don't care, because I think he genuinely is obsessed with accounting and is a nerd, and this is his pet project, and that's the greatest energy we could have in government. So, where auditing is like everybody's allergic to the idea of accountability in government, not Elon Musk, and he doesn't care what kind of heat he gets.
We're all going to love auditing. We're all going to love auditing, and we're all going to be talking about auditing like we never talked about anything before. By the way, as a future press secretary, this is the third day in a row. I don't know. Today could be the fourth day in a row. Caroline Leavitt will not let the Associated Press in the press room.
I think the executive...
I have a reason. Wait a second. Look at it. Hold on. Wait for it. Up on the full screen. Ladies, you can see it right here. Gulf of America. The AP will not say uncle and acknowledge the Gulf of America.
Now that's a Valentine's Day card.
Yes, that's beautiful.
That's a love poem.
Talk about poetic. And, the Associated Press, Larry, is one of these outlets that's masquerading as neutral and middle of the road, but is actually a progressive rag.
They shared space with Hamas.
They're screaming at me. Tommy, last
space.
word.
Right.
I'm going to say this. Beautiful Gulf of America seems warmer there than here in New York. I'll also say this. The party that wanted us to use pronouns they, them, whatever, you know what? It's the Gulf of America. That's the new pronoun. That's the new word. So use it. We demand you understand our identity.
Fabulous. You're all absolutely fabulous. Happy Valentine's
Thank
Day.
you, ladies,
Appreciate you
too.
coming on very, very much, ladies.